Alright guys, Scrappy again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far, with OpTic versus FaZe remaining a massive rivalry going into the Major 3 qualifiers for the Major in Toronto. Pred has given his thoughts on the Kenny versus Pred discussion they had during that series against FaZe. Blacking out, of course, did Pred during that particular moment. Kenny wasn't so happy about it. They had an interesting discussion on the matter at the time. Pred says, look, there wasn't too much in that, but certainly the team absolutely wants to win, and Pred is annoyed, not at his teammates, but at himself for underperforming in that grand finals against FaZe. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, we've got to discuss the map pool again, because we heard earlier today, 6-star in for Control. Probably not going to be happening, but 6-star will be in for Hardpoint, we believe. Still some questions on this, at least as of recording the video, because Karma said that they're actually still scrimming Skid Row, and 6-star might not be in the game yet. So I don't know what they're doing, but there is one of these doors. So it's one of these things, right? They can design good maps, it seems, at least if the developers take heavy inspiration, as they have done, from various other great competitive COD maps in the past. They are capable of creating good map designs. The spawns may be a question, and unfortunately sometimes other decision-making things still are lacking somewhat, right? Putting the hardpoint in the water, probably not the best decision. And also there's this like glass door which is basically bulletproof, but you can see through it. So it's really not the greatest piece of map design from a competitive perspective. And JP's like, hey, we've got to do something about these doors, either fix them or change them or make it so you can't see through them or just something like that. And Theory says, we got told in the rip chat they have no impact on the map. So this is actually really interesting, right? Because again, this is the game that the teams are playing. Some teams want 6-star in because they want it to replace a map they're bad at. Some teams maybe don't want it in, and therefore they're saying, well, you know, 6-star's good, it has this problem, but it's not a big deal because of XYZ, even if it is actually a rather big deal. As Clay says, you can creep them and watch all of the spawn flank for free. So, you know, there's a question as to whether this is really fair and justified from a competitive perspective. And as Theory says, Drazah did it against us our first time playing the map, and chat said it wasn't an issue. So I don't know, man, or the chat said it wasn't an issue, because the rep chat with the pros apparently doesn't think it's too much of a big deal. So look, if most of the pros agree that it's not so much of a big deal, fine, run it up. But some teams don't like it, and therefore they're going to use that as a reason to not bring it into the pool, possibly because they like the map set as it currently is. It's an absolute mess. It will continue to be a mess. This is a fair point, though, from Theory as well. Colourful map, though, so it should play great. And sure, just because it's colourful doesn't make it good, but it does make it better to watch. I definitely think that it is a relevant factor, and one of the reasons why a game such as, let's say, Black Ops 3, maybe, was actually a rather good one. Not just because it was a great game, but also the maps looked very unique and different and fun to watch and fun to play, and, you know, I don't need to gas up Treyarch. Again, we do that enough here on the channel. Speaking of Treyarch, actually, pick 10 system, because Sledgehammer Games, apparently, if you guys remember this, wanted to bring Pick 10 into this game, MW3, but Infinity Ward, for some reason, Infinity Ward has final veto on decisions, because they made MW2 and they made MW19, so even though Sledgehammer made this game, it was effectively a sequel, right, of last year's game. So apparently Infinity Ward still get to make the big decisions, really. And yeah, Sledgehammer wanted apparently to bring back Pick 10. That didn't happen because Infinity Ward said no. I think it's a no-brainer. We need a system like this back in COD. It was just so good for the classes. And I don't know if it's ever going to happen, just because of the amount of attachments we have nowadays, the Warzone stuff, the Gunsmith, and all these other things that ruin COD as far as I'm concerned. I will also say, this is probably the first time ever that I've seen someone tweet out something about Pick 10, and it's actually like a good class setup. Usually, you see some really wacky classes that people have put together here where they gas up Pick 10, but this is actually a viable class if you guys, for some reason, are still playing Black Ops 2 or want to know about the meta or something. The variation that I used to run of a class like this, because suppressors on the SMGs were very viable. Apart from the MSMC, it wasn't really worth doing that because you sacrificed too much damage as far as I'm concerned. But for the MP7, for the PDW, running it with the suppressor was the way to go. What I would do with my classes, I'd run something similar to this. I'd usually run Ghost and Hardline because, you know, playing for streaks and all this, trying to drop nukes. And then I'd drop the tac mask, I'd chuck on Scavenger as well as Toughness here, and then I dropped the quick draw and put a C4 on. That was the scummy class I used to go with. Just C4 with Scavenger, and it was brutally overpowered, I'm not gonna lie. The very first videos on this channel, actually, from way back in, like, I don't know, 2014, 2013, something like that, are Black Ops 2 gameplays with classes such as that. There was an MP7 one that I used to have decent success with. But, you know, we talk about different stuff nowadays. Quickly on Capture the Flag, because Control is not the best game mode. Is it, however, the best of a bad bunch for third game modes? Possibly, to be honest. I know that people rag on Control, and I totally get that, but I genuinely think that if they brought back Capture the Flag, it would be worse. And, well, I don't know if it would be worse if we had competent developers with competent spawn systems in the game, but I do believe that given the way things currently are, I don't think CTF would be as fun to watch. Control isn't great, but Control is a decent hybrid mode, I think, between Hardpoint and Search and Destroy. It's similar enough to both that new players can kind of understand what's going on. Then again, I guess Capture the Flag ain't exactly complicated either. And sure, was Control best made for Black Ops 4 when it was first introduced, when it was 5v5 and Specialist? I do think Control played better there than it does nowadays. It's still a respectable mode, and on some maps, such as Karachi, I think it actually plays really well and can be very exciting to watch. But on some maps, it is incredibly stale. The same, I think, is true for Capture the Flag. The thing is with Control is that maybe 40 to 50% of Control maps are actually entertaining. In Capture the Flag, you're looking at more like 20%, maybe 10 to 20%. But the maps that are great are like phenomenal. You know, like a good CTF map is some of the best COD you're ever going to watch. But the 80% that are bad are incredibly dull, right? And if a team gets a big lead, you might as well just chalk it up. And that's what Merc was saying as well, that like is CTF, are the spawns going to work in the same way that they did back then? Are they proper spawns or are they not? Because, you know, when CTF works well, the spawn systems are designed so that the player that spawns in has to make a very quick and difficult decision whether they rotate back to their own flag to try and defend or whether they overextend. The spawn systems have to be designed such that that is a viable decision in those circumstances. And most nowadays, the spawns, probably how they work is you just spawn behind the flag again and again and again and again, and it just makes the gameplay awful because no one can even get the flag out. But let's talk about this pretty inkhead situation, right? Because on the Vision episode, they had this discussion during that series. Obviously, they played FaZe. They had particularly difficult moments, and Pretty goes on to say in this clip, we'll see in a second, that there basically was no way for them to win that. They'd about to get like a 4 wipe and something, but nonetheless, they were discussing things, and Pred said, oh, look, we made a mistake, and Kenny says, no, you made the mistake. You should have listened harder type thing. And this is just, you know, the good accountability that you expect from top teams that have winning mentalities. But Pred discussed this on stream actually and said that, yeah, this was, you know, obviously a good thing to happen in some regard. He thinks that obviously it was probably somewhat overblown in terms of people talking about the clip and lots of discussion on it, of course, understandably, over the last few days. Really what he kind of thinks that it shows is that the team is like, you know, fully committed and fully on board to actually becoming the winning team that they need to be, because this is one of the reasons why, sure, one of the reasons why is because OpTic are the biggest team, but the other reason why things get discussed so much with OpTic when they don't win is because they haven't won in a fair bit of time. New York Subliners won the World Championship last year, including 2 other events of the season. FaZe just won this most recent event, and they won an event last year. Toronto won an event last year, and they won the first event of this year. OpTic haven't won in, you know, it's been over 2 years now since their event win at the start of Vanguard. So that's why these questions get raised, I think, more so with OpTic than maybe they do elsewhere. But Pred says, look, we're all here to win. The thing that frustrated him was that he didn't play his best against FaZe compared to the other matches.
And people were talking about, like, the whole blacking out thing. Like, when I was after that, I was like, yo, like, why shouldn't we done this? Bro, like, that shit is, like, she's so funny, too. I actually found that hilarious. I remember when we, like, watched it back. We ended up watching it back, like, that whole sequence, and it's like, we were still even if I did what we said we were gonna do, we were still even if we got off at 10, we had an extra 2 seconds. But, like, the only way we win that map is if we get a 4 wipe. That's it. Other than that, like, still fucked. When the game's so intense like that, bro, like, people are like, yeah, nah, people definitely gassing. Oh my god, Ken is keeping Freddy in check from walking out, man. Yeah, man. Ken's my dad, dude. It just shows that you guys keep it 100%, bro. We all want to win. We all want to win. No one will ever say anything in that team that's like, what the fuck, did you really say that? Or like, get butthurt. Just like, everyone's just trying to win, dude. We're all competitive as fuck. I'm just mad at myself, dude, because I'm just mad at myself because I feel like I played so well against every team.
And I think looking at Pred's performances so far this season, you can kind of, you know, see this, right? Because he's been great against basically anyone that he's played against. I mean, these were the series they, for example, played at the Major. Pred loves playing by aBeZy, right? We know that for sure because they play it online, and, well, the rest is history kind of since then. They then played Ultra. He played really well in this one. Pred had a 1.19. So, you know, he played great COD for the majority of the tournament, pretty much until they played FaZe. He didn't have his best performance, right? I mean, they lost 3-1 here. here. Pred didn't have his best series here, had a 0.89, and short the KD and everything. Look at the stats, look at the damage, but I think the eye test also told you a similar story. They then took down the Subliners in the losers bracket. Pred had a monster series here, certainly the game one, wasn't it, when he went, yeah, 36 in 20 on that sub-base hardpoint to win them the game pretty much single-handedly at times, it felt like. But then the final series they played against FaZe, you know, again, he had a pretty rough time with a 0.84 with the lowest damage in the lobby by quite some margin. So I think it's understandable from Pred that, sure, the discussion between the guys was good, but his feeling is, yeah, if I just played better against FaZe, could have been a very different story. There's obviously a debate that Dashy has had about this because Simp and aBeZy played unbelievable. If Pred plays a bit better, if Dashy plays a bit better, but also Kenny had a monster series, will that happen again? I think Kenny's great, but is he likely to drop 105, 109 kills over a 5-map series again against FaZe in the finals? Probably not, just because that's one of the absolute very best individual series that anybody has had this season so far. Like, it's up there, it's definitely like top 3 series that anyone has had this season, was Kenny against FaZe in the finals. Unlikely to be replicated going forwards. But I think OpTic is still in a good position, and it's just hearing what the guys have to say and hearing the way that Kenny approaches things makes me feel like that this is the most confident that OpTic can and really should be over the last few years, certainly for OpTic fans, right? If you look at this team compared to some of the last couple of teams, this is the team that should have the capabilities, I think, of really getting over the line. The issue is you've got to beat some damn good teams if you want to win nowadays, right? There's no free lunches here. You've got to get through FaZe, you've got to get through Toronto, you've got to get through New York, among some other teams that also have some upset potential. Crowder, of course, coach of FaZe, talking about Simp and aBeZy as well, just discussing how they're an unbelievable duo and arguably the best duo to ever play together. They are now the longest serving duo ever. That is now officially a thing. They overtook Scump and Kremp not that long ago now, and in terms of, you know, the way they play together, longevity, they've got to be right up there. Are they a better duo than a Scump Formal? That is, you know, obviously a question that's out there in the world now, but they've got to be right at the top of the list, if not top 2 at the very minimum. There's other good duos like Aches and TP and stuff like this as well, but from an SMG perspective, I think it's clear that Simp and aBeZy top the roost. I think for me, like Scump and Formal, I might give them a little bit of an edge just because they won more events together. Okay, they only won one World Championship together, but also because it was like an AR SMG thing and they had that dynamic unlock. Maybe that's a little bit different to like 2 SMGs, but then again, I guess both of them are incredible, right? Maybe you can't even compare on some level. But just the final thing I wanted to mention for you guys was Sib airing out his frustrations, it seems, with actually battleBeZy. So very interesting stuff. Now, he has talked about getting a new controller for some time, and every time he gets one, the controller is just broken for some reason. So he has like very specific specifications that he wants, and when it arrives, it doesn't even work. So yeah, Sib was discussing this with Zuma on stream. I'll just share the clip here to close out the video because clearly significant frustrations that he's been playing with a problematic controller for months now, and you know, battleBeZy, it seems, I think Drill clarifies that it's not New York, but it's the company that he wants the controllers from, multiple specific builds with specific configs broken on delivery, taking time to build them. So yeah, is this affecting Sib's gameplay? Well, maybe it's going to affect his mental if he has a bad spot, but very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
If I get into control anytime soon, I actually might do that.
Oh yeah, can I talk?
Are you still in this cycle?
Nah, dude, I gotta talk to you about that, Dante. I gotta talk to you about that, bro.
Wow.
Because you were on the New York Subliners, bro.
Okay.
You're telling me that you can't get 2 controllers, like,
Nope.
overnighted to your house?
Nope,
That's
nope,
dumb.
that's impossible.
What do you mean?
Brother, I put in it. Listen, I gave him a controller to fix. Okay, listen. The only thing that was wrong with my controller was that I couldn't sprint. The sprint button was really bad.
Okay.
Right? Told them to fix that.
Okay.
They gave it. I sent that at the beginning of the year. I had 2 controllers from the previous season, incorporated for this season, the upcoming one. Right? One of them, I sent it back right at the beginning of the year because it just needs to be a little fixed, a little bit, whatever. They didn't send it back till 6 months later. The controller doesn't even work. The scoreboard button didn't even work. Right? After 6 months, they did that. Right? Then I get another controller. I get another controller, and the port is messed up, so my controller never stays plugged. So I'm just spin botting mid-game like every 2 seconds. Doesn't matter, new wire, fucking anything, bro. Fucking WD-40. I'm fucking blowing in that shit. Anything you name it. Doesn't work. Right? But that one doesn't work. I get another controller. It actually works, but it took forever to get here, right? So thank God, right? This one works. Now, this shit has super stick drift on 5 dead zone.
Boys.
Right? So I can't fucking use this shit. I stick drift and I can't sprint. Alright, and then I get another one. Right? And the shoot button doesn't work. So I shoot and it randomly just stops shooting. Yeah, and then also not to mention my coaches gave them controllers to fix, right? Yada yada. Still haven't received them since the beginning of the game.